Welcome to App Stories, a weekly exploration of the world of apps. Today's show is brought to you by Linode and Kensington. I'm John Voorhees, and with me, of course, is Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I've been watching a lot of TV. Go figure.
This show, we're pivoting app stories. It's going to be the Hollywood stories. That's what we're going to do going forward. Hollywood stories.
Like all good tech people, we are now TV critics, right?
Yes, and we are pivoting to video, quite literally.
Yes. You thought we'd be on YouTube, but no, it's other people's video.
It's other people's video. That's what we're pivoting to. But no, Apple TV Plus launched last week after, I don't know, man, it feels incredible. Like, it's been 2 years since Apple hired, the people from Sony that I absolutely cannot remember their name.
I never can either.
I want to say Zach and Jamie. It's probably wrong. I don't know.
I think you're close.
I think I'm close, though. I think I am. So it's been 2 years. Apple actually, and I forgot about this, Apple actually had a press release, I think it was in June 2017, about hiring these two people to lead their video programming service. So finally, we have the material from Apple to show what they've been working on. Apple TV Plus is live on all Apple devices and compatible television sets using the pre-installed, or I guess you got to install it from their app store, the Apple TV app. That's where you can find Apple TV Plus. There's a 1 year free trial if you bought an Apple device starting September 10. So likely I bought an Apple TV 4K even before the iPhones and the Apple Watch in September. So it appears that the Apple TV Plus picked up that device, like the first device that I bought after September 10. And when I tried to sign up, it said, your new Apple TV qualifies for a free year of Apple TV Plus. I'm like, okay. I bought it, I think on September 15 or something. So that showed up in my account right away. I've been watching some shows. For context, John, I'm all caught up on the morning show.
Okay, so am I.
I watched the first episode of For All Mankind, and I still have to watch C. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with Dickinson, because I don't know, considering all the options that we have nowadays for incredible TV content to watch, I got to prioritize. I'm not sure I'm interested enough in this, retelling of the Emily Dickinson life story. So probably gonna watch C next, and then I guess we're gonna talk about it later. But today, I wanted to share some of our first thoughts on Apple TV Plus, the experience in the Apple TV app, what we like, what we don't like, how the service rollout went, and all these kinds of first impressions. So before we get to the actual experience, John, can you contextualize for me sort of what are your TV watching habits? We talked about this before, but it's good to brush up on that again.
Yeah, no, it is. We don't have cable TV at my house.
Okay.
We're streaming only, and 99% of that is through the Apple TV. So we subscribe to Netflix and to Hulu, which I guess is in the US and maybe Canada. I forget, but it's not in very many countries in any event. But Hulu, just kind of the basic Hulu, and Disney Plus coming up soon. And of course, I also had bought an iPhone that qualified for the free year of TV Plus. I kind of wish that I got a year for every single device that I bought, because I have a feeling that we'd be set for life on on TV Plus if that were the case. But that's not the case as far as I know. And you know what? I have, in terms of TV Plus itself, I, like you, have watched the morning show, all 3 episodes, and I've watched the first episode of For All Mankind. Haven't watched C yet. Jennifer watched the first episode of Dickinson, and she seemed to like it, although I was busy doing something else, so I didn't watch it except for maybe 5 or 10 minutes when I was passing through the room. She seemed to like it, but she hasn't watched the second episode yet, so I'm not sure. But yeah, that's kind of how I do it. So we really just kind of move between. Oh, and I guess the other service I should mention is Amazon Prime, because we're Prime members, so we have that. So we watch a kind of a combination. I'd say predominantly Netflix and Amazon in the past, with a little bit of Hulu mixed in with that. But now we've been watching in the last week. We've been watching quite a bit of the TV Plus too.
Okay. So as for me, as we discussed before, the concept of cable is completely a US thing. We don't have what you guys call cable in Italy. We have terrestrial TV, which is now called digital TV, which is basically over the air TV. And we got a bunch of like the most important channels. Like we have a national television, which has 3 channels, and we have it's called Mediaset. It's another huge broadcasting company with a bunch of other channels, and we do watch like the news or reality shows because I like to watch my my junk TV just to relax every once in a while. But they also have movies, they have TV shows and all that. We do not subscribe to satellite TV, which I guess would be the closest to cable. We have Sky, the Murdoch company, basically. But we do not have a satellite dish, so we do not subscribe to Sky. We do subscribe to Netflix. I have Amazon Prime Video, which I primarily use to watch Jack Ryan, as most people do, I suppose. And so I would say that our streaming habits are, at this point, sort of evenly split between Netflix. As I told you last week, we've been binging all seasons of Lucifer on Netflix, and the Apple TV app. We use the Apple TV app a lot. All the TV shows that we watch in English, I buy from iTunes these days, and for the past several years at this point, I gave up on the whole using a VPN or downloading episodes in some other ways. Sure. I just buy them from iTunes. It's easier, and I get them in HD. So I buy the traditional way. I buy TV episodes on iTunes when they're available, and now I'm using Apple TV Plus, which also lives in the Apple TV app. But otherwise, I would say that we either watch Netflix or watch iTunes content through the Apple TV app, and now Apple TV Plus content as well.
Yeah, Netflix is one of the things that we're going to talk about because I think that it kind of hangs over the entire TV app in a lot of ways, mainly given its absence. And there's some interesting comparisons between the Netflix experience and the TV Plus experience. I guess I want to start out when we're talking about the TV app, just kind of thinking about the context and the history a little bit, because there's an awful lot of baggage with the TV app. When it started, the way it worked was you had to download individual providers' apps. So you might have a BBC app and an NBC app and a CBS app and all those things, and HBO, whatever it happened to be. And when Apple introduced the TV app, if you were in the TV app, it was fed content from these other apps. But when you tapped on or clicked on whatever it is, the particular show you wanted to watch, it would kick you out to another app. And that was pretty jarring. I mean, it was pretty clear what was going on there. And also the experience between, one company's app versus another varied quite a bit. A lot of people do very custom tvOS apps these days. So that didn't really work particularly well. And that's why, Apple has introduced this concept of channels, but now you've got this weird existence in the TV app where you've got a combination of these third-party app connections, which still exist. That's kind of that legacy method of watching shows is still there, along with the new channels, which is still fairly limited. I mean, it's got HBO's in there and Showtime and Cinemax and a bunch of smaller, I guess CBS All Access, a bunch of other smaller, lesser known channels as well. But the experience is a little different. And boy, I'll tell you, it was really jarring for me when I did the Catalina review, because I opened up the new TV app on my Mac. I was like, wait, where did all the shows go? Because you don't have on a Mac that same concept of third-party apps that connect into the TV app. So the only thing there are the channels. And it was kind of empty compared to what I see when I look at my Apple TV or one of my iOS devices. I mean, I think that is part of what makes the TV app a little difficult to use right now, because we're in this weird transition point where we've got purchase TV shows, stream TV shows, things from Apple, things from third parties, third-party apps, channels which are kind of native. It's just a real big soup of different approaches.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the Apple TV, the TV apps UI is passable, I would say. Like, I don't hate it as much as other people do.
Right.
I don't think it's a nightmare. I don't think it's a tragedy. I think it's got problems. I think it's got issues. It's part of the reason why earlier this week I put together, and this is kind of funny, but I put together a shortcut to launch specific sections of the Apple TV Plus service within the TV app. Because one of the complaints that I've seen and that I've heard on podcasts and that I've also sort of experienced myself is that it can be a little frustrating to navigate the UI of the TV app if all you want to do is just see what's new on Apple TV Plus. So I signed up for Apple TV Plus, show me what's on Apple TV Plus. And for the most part, the TV app does this, surfaces this content in the Watch Now section. So in Watch Now, there's a bunch of banners for Apple TV Plus, and anything that you've previously started watching resides in the Up Next section of the Watch Now page. And then you have a bunch of other sections like What to Watch. And What to Watch is a mix of channel content and Apple TV Plus content. And then if you scroll down the page, you will see other banners and promotions for Apple TV Plus. That said, I put together a shortcut that I think is a better experience in that with a single tap, and you can use it as a widget, for example, you can launch the Apple TV Plus homepage within the Apple TV app. It's just a link. These apps, TV, music, they are, at a high level, they are wrappers for web content. And so if you know the link to a specific web-based page, you can sort of force the app to load that content. And my shortcut allows you to view the front page of Apple TV Plus, which is different from what you see in Watch Now, as well as Apple TV Plus pages for individual shows. So if you want to see the show page for The Morning Show or For All Mankind, my shortcut can do that. So it is kind of surprising to me that there's no, sidebar or menu that just says, open Apple TV Plus and just look at what's on Apple TV Plus, because it's a very different, as you mentioned, it's a big soup otherwise. It's this, the Watch Now page is a mix of everything that's supported in the Apple TV experience. So right now, my Watch Now page has HBO, because I signed up for HBO as a channel, Apple TV Plus content, and iTunes content that I purchased on the iTunes store. There's there are banners and promotions that I can click through to get to that page, but there's no obvious shortcut that says, here's the Apple TV Plus homepage, go there.
Yeah, and I do kind of wonder, though, whether this is something of a temporary problem in that we're at a time period with TV Plus being brand new when there are new people coming to the TV app for the very first time, and the reason they're coming is for that TV Plus content. So that's why it's particularly painful, I think. I mean, the way Apple is handling their own content is really no different than they've handled third-party content for quite some time. And if you were familiar with the TV app, as you said, it's not great, but with a little familiarity, it's not that bad either. I do wish, though, that we had the ability to customize it, because I feel like some of the stuff that I want to watch is pushed too far down the page. Like I was looking when we were getting ready for this show, I was looking at my Apple TV and Hulu was way down, like several scroll screens down on the page. Some of the shows that were in Watch Now and up near the top were things that someone else in my family had watched that I didn't want to watch, or it was like, I don't know, I watched the news one time last week, and so the news was in the first position, and I really didn't want to, I just didn't want to watch the news last night. I wanted to watch Jack Ryan or something like that. So what I'd like to be able to do is have a section right up at the very top that I can customize, not just with the shows, but maybe the channels too, the providers in those top slots, because there, as we said right at the outset, there are really only a few that I watch regularly, week in and week out. And so being able to kind of customize that and create the tiles that populate that top row or two would be kind of nice. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Linode. With Linode, you can instantly deploy and manage an SSD server in the Linode cloud. And you can get your server up and running in just seconds with your choice of Linux distro, resources, and node location. It doesn't matter if you're working on your very first server or deploying a complex system. Linode are the folks to go to. They offer the fastest hardware and network with outstanding customer support if you ever need help. It's super easy to launch a Linode cloud server, and their block storage is available in Newark, Fremont, Dallas, Atlanta, Frankfurt, London, and Singapore, and soon, Tokyo too. Version 4 of Linode's RESTful API is out of beta, and it includes an officially supported Python CLI. And right now, Linode are hiring. If you want to learn more and check out what they're looking for, go on over to linode.com/careers. We use Linode at Mac Stories, and I've told you about that in the past, but you know what is really impressive about Linode? Not only can it handle things like the Slack bots that we do here at Mac Stories, but it can handle the entire back end of Marco Arment's Overcast app. It's amazing. It scales from the smallest project on up to the biggest. And you know what? Linode has pricing that suits everyone's needs, no matter what size your project happens to be. Their plans start at just 1 gigabyte of RAM for $5 a month, and they offer high memory plans starting at 16 gigabytes of RAM. And Linode have a special offer just for App Stories listeners. As a listener of this show, you can go to linode.com/appstories and use the promo code AppStories2019 to get $20 towards any Linode plan. On the 1 gigabyte of RAM plan, that's 4 free months. And with a 7-day money-back guarantee, you've got nothing to lose. So, give Linode a try today. Again, that URL is linode.com/appstories, and the promo code, so they know you came from this show, is AppStories2019. To learn more, sign up, and make the most of that $20 credit. Our thanks to Linode for their support of App Stories.
This is probably never going to happen, but something that I've long wished for is for Apple to build a simple, doesn't have to be, super nerdy or power user like, but a simple list of all the shows and episodes that I'm watching, like a TV show tracker interface.
That would be nice.
Within the TV app, because right now I'm using television time. Right. It's an iPhone or an iPad app that syncs with my Tracked TV account. And obviously, I do not expect Apple to ever support Tracked, which is a service to keep track of your favorite TV shows and episodes that you've watched. I don't expect Apple to ever support Tracked, but it would be nice. There's Watch Now that uses some smarts and machine learning, whatever, to suggest shows for you at different times of the day, for different types of content, for channels and all that. But what I want is, I guess, an extension of the library. So there's a library section in the TV app that shows you all the content that you own, but it doesn't necessarily differentiate between content that you're watching right now. I just want a simple list of, here's all the TV shows that you're watching right now, here's how many episodes you're behind, and you can mark them as watched, or the system can take care of that for you automatically, whatever. I just want a list of, here's everything that you're supposed to watch, here's everything that's coming up for future air dates, and here's which shows have been renewed and which shows have been canceled. They're probably never going to do this, so I'm probably going to be stuck having to use a third-party TV show tracker, but I kind of wish that Apple thought about this too.
Yeah, the TV app really has kind of an Apple Music problem too, in that it's got streamed content and owned content, and mixing the two is only done kind of, sort of, in like the TV tab. If you go in there, you'll see things that you own as well as things that you're streaming. But the library is strictly owned, and I believe the first tab is the Watch Now tab is strict. It's actually not strictly streaming, is it? It's owned too, right?
No, it's mixed. I see, for example, The Greatest Showman, which is a movie that I bought from iTunes in 4K, and it's there in Watch Now. So it combines all kinds of sources, whether it's channels, TV Plus, or iTunes Store owned content. It's all in one single view.
One thing that I think they could do better, that Apple could do better here, is distinguishing between what you have to pay for and what's free, because that by combining things like own things that you've already paid for, and then sources that have free material, maybe you already subscribe, or maybe it's free for some as a trial or whatever it happens to be, or it's paid, and you go to that Watch Now section, and you can't tell if something you're going to click on is going to require you to subscribe somewhere and pay for it first, which I kind of wish there were maybe little icons in the corner or something that gave you a hint as to whether this was something you're going to have to pay for or not.
So we've been watching, as I said, a lot of Netflix lately. We've binged 3 seasons of Lucifer on Netflix in like 10 days. Sylvia and I were watching season 4 now, and this happened as Apple TV Plus was launching. So I wanted to do some comparisons between the experience of watching TV shows in Netflix and watching TV shows in the TV app. And obviously, it's an unfair comparison because Netflix has a lot of content, arguably even too much content. There's Netflix originals and back catalog and TV shows and movies and documentaries and all kinds of content that you could possibly ever want to watch. And the Apple TV Plus, of course, is marketed as the first all-original video streaming service, which is, yes, a nice marketing spin on the fact that Apple probably couldn't secure rights to back catalog content. But, anyhow, so I made a list of differences that I noticed in watching Netflix and watching Apple TV Plus content. Do you know, John, because maybe I'm doing this wrong, I don't see a skip intro feature for Apple TV Plus. I've seen people mention skip intro. I never got a skip intro button. Obviously, Netflix has one. It's super convenient. It lets you skip the intro. I never want to...
Yeah.
I don't understand because there's people like that fundamentally oppose the idea of skipping the intro. I don't want to watch the same animation and credits every single time I start a show. I just want to get to the show.
Especially as it's getting later at night and you want to cram one more in before you go to bed, right? I mean, I agree completely. You want to kind of be efficient about it, and there's no reason to watch it over and over. I have seen it. In the morning show. Yeah, really? But I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think I've seen it every time.
I must be doing something wrong.
Because you know how the morning show does that kind of animated intro with all the little balls and everything.
Yes,
and I distinctly remember being able to skip over that one time, but I'm not sure I've seen it every single time. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe it's not working for everyone.
Very interesting. When you're watching a show on Netflix, something that they started doing a few years ago. The next episode for the next show in the same series, it starts playing automatically after 5 seconds. So when you're reaching the end, before the credits roll, which is nice touch, you start seeing this banner that says next episode starts in 5 or like 7, 6, and it counts down, and then it starts automatically, which is perfect if you're binging a show. You can just move on to the next one, and then when it starts, you can skip the intro, and off you go, and suddenly you've been watching Lucifer for 5 hours and you didn't even realize it. But I think it's really well done because it removes the friction, right, from the experience of having to navigate back and picking the next episode and all that. I've never seen this feature in the TV app either. I've heard Mike mention that there's some flavor of, and obviously Mike Hurley, he does an excellent segment on all on entertainment and video, all things video streaming on his podcast Upgrade with Jason Snell. Upstream, it's the name of the segment. It's really, really, really good. He mentioned last week that he saw some kind of next episode banner or like tray appear within the TV app. Also never seen this one on my end. Funny thing is he mentioned that on one occasion, the next episode banner suggested a different episode for a different TV show, like watch next. And it was like an episode of Dickinson, and he was watching the morning shows. Like, why would you recommend that to me? Just move on to the next one. So I think, if anything, Apple should do a better job at consistently and more obviously bringing up these banners or like buttons to quickly skip the intro and quickly move on to the next episode, because people have shown that they do want to binge TV. When they have a couple of hours, they just want to keep watching in almost one continuous stream So I think they should be, they should take inspiration from Netflix on that front.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. It does make Netflix awfully easy to use.
There's more.
Okay.
Netflix has very helpful sort of info field at the top of a show page that tells you whether a show is coming back or not. And especially for Netflix originals, in this case, Lucifer. Lucifer used to be a Fox show, and then Fox canceled it at the end of the third season, and Netflix picked it up last year, and they did a fourth season, and they have a final fifth season in the works, and it's supposed to come out in 2020. In Netflix, when you're watching when you open the show page for Lucifer, it tells you the show is coming back. It doesn't give you any details, but it gives you the confidence that you're watching a show that has been renewed already. So it's not like you're wasting your time. I always hate it when I start watching a show and then realize, oh, this show has been canceled after the first season. I just wasted my time to get to know these characters and get to know the story, and then it's over. So I do appreciate having the the confirmation that yes, the show is coming back. And right now we already know that the morning show and C, I believe, and For All Mankind are coming back for a second season, but there's no such info in Apple TV Plus, which I understand because it's new. It literally just launched. So I hope that Apple will add it in the future. I do love this feature. It's available in the Netflix app for iPhone, iPad. It's really well done, by the way, Netflix on the iPhone. It's got some Instagram-like elements. You can watch trailers as if they were Instagram stories. It's really well done. But one of the sections that they have is the Coming Soon section. And the Coming Soon section aggregates all shows and movies that are being released on Netflix in the near future. And you can watch a trailer and you can create a reminder to be notified when that item will be available for streaming on Netflix. I think it's really well done. It's fun. You can swipe through these cards for trailers and shows and episodes, and you can create reminders by tapping a bell icon. It's a good idea. It's a way for you to see what's coming up.
That strikes me as something that Apple absolutely should do, because they've got such a limited amount of content already. They ought to be leveraging what's coming down the pipeline as much as they possibly can, and that's one way to get people excited about some of the movies that have been announced and some of the series that are going to be debuting in the coming months. This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Kensington, the people who make universal docking stations that are designed to increase your productivity. You can get access to more ports and make your sleek new MacBook, Chromebook, or other laptop as powerful as a desktop. It's plug and play with no drivers, so you can enjoy up to dual 4K displays with HDMI and DisplayLink video connectors, plus USB 3.0, USB-C, and Thunderbolt 3 with power delivery available. The Kensington engineering team has 3 decades of experience in high-volume manufacturing of hardware IT products, plus rigorous test cycles and quality control means that their products are tested above industry standards. If you're an IT decision maker looking to find the right docking solutions for your organization, check out Kensington's Pro Concierge program and test drive a docking solution today. Visit kensington.com/appstories right now to check out Kensington. That's kensington.com/appstories to learn more about their fantastic docking solutions. Our thanks to Kensington for the support of App Stories.
And finally, I wanted to mention the Netflix feature for adding a show to your watch list. You can do it with one tap. There's a plus button. You tap it, it's added to your list. So it's sort of like a watch later feature, like a reading list feature for TV shows and movies. But it works. Just with one tap, you can add it to your watch list, and it's done. And of course, the Apple TV app has no such concept of a watch list because they want you to search and use your library and use the Watch Now page. But no, I just want a list, man. I just want to add stuff to my list, so they should copy it. And just I guess to conclude this segment, I would say that in general, and maybe this is a byproduct of the fact that Netflix has a huge back catalog, but I do believe that from a visual standpoint, from a design standpoint, Netflix has just a more fun interface. It's a fun UI that encourages browsing around and discovering stuff and searching and clicking through the recommendations. It's just more fun. And it feels like it's made by a team that is very much aware of the fact that Netflix has too much content. And therefore, it feels
Right.
like it's... But even despite that, it feels more organized than the Apple TV experience, where TV Plus has much less content, but it feels all over the place. Whereas Netflix, it encourages, discovering and looking through the recommendations and watching trailers and all that. It's just more fun. I think it's more fun, and I think Apple should, reconsider what they're doing with the Watch Now page, which, despite the fact that it's supposedly powered by machine learning and smart recommendations, it feels very static. And what's the opposite of smart? I don't want to say dumb, but it doesn't feel smart at all to me. It feels limited.
No, yeah, it doesn't really, and you're right, it is kind of static. It doesn't seem to change much day to day. And I noticed just the other day a really good example of how it's not super smart in that I, for a while, was subscribing to CBS All Access to watch the Twilight Zone show, and then I canceled that subscription, but I'm still getting recommended that I watch the Twilight Zone, and it should know that I don't subscribe to that anymore, and I can't watch it unless I resubscribe. So, having that surfaced, I understand maybe surfacing it because I watched it before, and maybe I will want to watch it again at some point. But having that right up at the top amongst the shows that I watched in the last week or two just felt a little bit like it didn't belong there. With Netflix, I guess, agree with you that they do a little bit better job of organizing and surfacing material. It's a little denser, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
It's maybe not a totally fair comparison, though, because Apple is not just trying to surface its own content. It's trying to surface the content of a bunch of different players. And those players, some of them, they have all different business models. And so they're not only trying to show you shows that you might want to watch, but providers and channels and subscriptions, different kinds of ways into content to populate the TV app in the first place, which I think is what in part makes it feel a little confused and difficult to navigate, because you're not just looking at shows and you don't really have control over what's in there, including the fact that you're being advertised to some degree by other providers who have, get a free trial of Stars now for a week, and then $5 after that or whatever it is. There's that kind of stuff going on there, which I don't really mind it in the sense that I don't mind being told that I can get a particular subscription for a good price or a discount or whatever it happens to be. But I do wish I had more control over what was especially at the top of the first screen of Watch Now, because it's a combination of customizing and also, as you said before, tracking. I think it would be really nice to be able to very easily say, oh, okay, here's go to the page for Jack Ryan and see, maybe there's a little bar graph at the bottom that shows that I'm 3/4 of the way through. I've watched 6 of the 8 episodes or whatever it is. Gives me a sense of progress and where I am, and maybe I have enough time to finish that one off because I only have 2 episodes, whereas For All Mankind, I've got another 8 to go or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, that would be really nice. And I know you tweeted recently about something that I think is a great idea that I would love to see, but I kind of don't think we're going to see it anytime soon, which was some kind of connection between Apple Music and TV, right?
Right. I mentioned last night, as we're recording this on Twitter, how I would love to have a deeper integration between Apple TV and Apple Music for TV shows and movies that have non-original soundtracks. So they're using songs from other artists. I would love to see either as you're watching, like a pop-up or a banner that pops up and tells you, here's the song. And I think a few people told me that Amazon, of course, does this via their X-ray feature of Amazon Prime Video. So either a banner that appears when a particular song comes on, or when the episode is over, you can go to the show page and have like a section that tells you, music from this episode, and you can stream that music in Apple Music, or you can add it to your library or whatever. A lot of people very helpfully told me on Twitter something that I already knew, that there's playlists on Apple Music for all the songs for the Apple TV Plus shows, which is exactly my point. Apple is already doing this curation. I shouldn't have to know that these playlists exist. By integration, I meant there should be a button or something in the TV app that tells me, look, this music you can listen on Apple Music. And so I wish that Apple even owns Shazam. So it could be either a Shazam feature when a song is playing during an episode, or it could be just an Apple Music section within Apple TV. There's precedent for this. For example, Apple News is integrated with stocks. And I know that everybody makes fun of stocks, but it's the idea of Apple owns multiple services now. Why not blend them together if they are, talking about or showing you related content? So that would be fun. Something that, before we wrap up the show, another idea that I wanted to run by you is, it feels like increasingly these days we have so many entertainment choices, and you look at music. We have Apple Music, we have Apple TV, TV Plus, we have Netflix, we have Apple Arcade, so we have even video games now. I kind of wish that, again, probably never gonna happen, but I kind of wish that that companies like Apple started thinking of entertainment as less like a siloed experience where you need to decide what you want to do, and more like a single integrated flow. By which I mean, if I have a couple of hours, give me like an app called Entertainment that shows me TV shows, music, or games. I cannot do all of those activities at once. Obviously, I gotta choose. I could play a video game and listen to music at the same time, but I couldn't watch a TV show and play a video game at the same time. So, have a single dashboard that tells me, you got 30 minutes, why not play this game? Or you got 10 minutes, listen to this playlist. Or you got a couple of hours, here's a good TV show for you. Have a single dashboard that allows me to make good use of my free time without having to navigate 3 different apps. That's my dream.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, I could see Apple doing something that combined news and books and things like that too. I mean, why not have different reading experience suggested to you depending on how much time you have or what you want to do? That would be nice as well. I mean, just flipping back for a moment though about the music, I think that feature with Amazon is what they call X-Ray. Mm-hmm. And I have actually Shazammed a couple of songs during shows that I've watched so far. And, if you go back to the day before Apple owned Shazam, they had all sorts of integrations and deals with networks where you could use Shazam during an advertisement if you wanted to learn more about the product, or during the shows, they also Shazammed the songs very, very quickly during the shows. And I found doing it while I was watching TV Plus to be extremely fast. And I wouldn't be surprised if, there is some integration going on there, but I feel like it needs to be surfaced better within the actual UI of the TV app, as you suggested, because just, it would be great if I had the remote in my hand and I could hit a Shazam button or something at some point, maybe, or have it swipe over and have it show up in a control panel and Shazam that way, instead of pulling my phone out of my pocket, because I'm not, I'm watching TV, I'm not looking at my phone, and it's not the best way to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, Federico, I think that's a good place for us to stop for this week. I'm enjoying the shows that I've seen so far, and I hope Apple keeps up the the pace in terms of the new shows to watch, because I really like the variety of things I'm getting now, not just from them, but Amazon and Hulu and everybody else. So I'd like to thank our 2 sponsors again for this episode. That's Linode and Kensington. You can find me and Federico over at macstories.net, where Federico is our editor-in-chief, and you can find him on Instagram and on Twitter. He's at Viticci. That's VITICCI, and I'm at John Voorhees, JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.